I was just thinking about everything that's been going on this week, and
funny.
Yeah, so that's what I want to talk to me about today, and
okay, I got you.
It's funny to me.
Cause I've been going in on the gifts and the memes for this whole thing. So yeah, let's go.
Well, I mean, let's start it right there, because I mean, this whole thing started on Christmas Eve, and what happened was a lot of crypto YouTubers started seeing their videos getting deleted and getting copyright strike.
Mm-hmm. And they were going. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, please. For the people who don't know, what happened was over this past week, YouTube was blocking. Well, it was taking down videos. It was giving copyright strikes to crypto content creators. It turned out it was not just crypto content creators. It was a blanket. We're just striking people down. So, Trekk, I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
So, I didn't start paying attention to this until I think Omar said something. Because there's a couple of different SoMe groups, like Telegram. There's a group of content creators. I heard Discord has another group too. But I didn't start looking at anything until Omar said something. And I was like, damn, they got Omar? Like, really?
Yeah. And when it got Omar, I think that red flagged a lot of people, because Omar's a pretty nice person. He doesn't come across to me as combative and starting drama and stuff like that. So I'm like, why did they go after him?
But it's not even a combative or drama thing, though. Like, it was somebody else who said something before Omar said it. And I was just like, no, a matter of fact, that's who it was. The first person I saw was Ivan on Tech. Okay. Now, it was happening before Ivan on Tech did his broadcast. But he was the more notable person for me. And I'm like, oh, wow, Ivan's bringing this up? Okay, whatever, let's see, And then when they started showing out the names, and then when I went into the Telegram group that I'm in, and then I started seeing other people in that group comment about it, because it's like over 50 different content creators in that group, all ranging in various sizes as far as, what their viewership and following size thing is.
Right.
And so it was just like, oh, so you mean to tell me that y'all, like, here's the tweet that I did the other day. You promote a disruptive technology that's meant to disrupt the system. You get used to pushing out your content on that system.
Right.
And then you get mad when the system shuts you down.
Right.
How? Like, and then the other part of it, because like, depending on where you're looking at it, if you're looking in Twitter, if you're looking in Reddit, or there's a couple of the places where like info is kind of floating around. It's like, oh, it's people going around flagging content.
Mm-hmm.
And my first thought, right, when I first heard it, I was like, nah, that's probably the algos. Like, every time they make certain upgrades on the algos, guess what? This is what happens.
Right.
And somebody, I think I was talking to Crypto Blood about this, because we're going to do a live stream on the weekend about it. And he was like, yeah, so how about, somebody pointed out, like, have you noticed that it's all of the white content creators who are getting flagged? Once Omar got flagged, that throws that argument out the window, because it's like, oh, they're leaving all the black folks alone. It's like, first of all, it's only a handful of us to begin with in here. So like, what does that even really mean?
Yeah.
But
well, you know what you had though is you had a lot of rumor going around, and
it's still going.
Well, and the problem was YouTube wasn't quick to respond to all the chatter. Nope. And well, quite frankly, I don't know. I didn't see very many people tagging YouTube in
their
the
stuff, right?
yeah, it's like, well, maybe if we tell them this is happening. And so I think what happened was YouTube support finally jumped in on Twitter. And that's when we started hearing about it being a mistake and, you know, the like you said, the algorithm, you know, and it just, it fascinated me how quickly it devolved in, you guys are going to jail for shilling and that all this stuff too. I'm just like,
really? I didn't even pay attention to that part.
You know what? I have friends in different camps. You know, I don't make one bones about whoever you prefer to embrace, but it's times like that when you start seeing people being deplatformed and start seeing people getting strikes that you start see the real character of some people, right? Where they won't come out and support and say, we need to figure this out. They'll say, well, good riddance and glad you're gone, you know, that kind of stuff, you know.
Why? Because that goes towards whatever your agenda is in particular. And here's the thing that gets me. The other thing that I said when the first tweet I did, I was like, oh, so you mean, no, matter of fact, I did it on Ivan's thing. I said, oh, so you mean when Cliff High was telling people, oh, YouTube is changing the algos and the algos are going through and flagging and deleting content, no one wanted to bother with Cliff High anymore because his Webbox report were trash at that point. They weren't making people money and hitting everything on the mark. But he said the thing like over a year and change ago. Hey, they're changing the algos. The algos are going to start doing this to content on the platform.
Right.
No one wanted to rally behind him when he was calling it out. No one wanted to rally behind some of the people who were getting cut last year. Like, people forget, Alex Jones, that wasn't 2 years ago. That wasn't 5 years ago. That was like, exactly. And they did it to him on multiple platforms in like an hour or two.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? It just he just disappeared from the internet, it seemed like.
And then you get to this whole thing of like, oh, well, you know, well, he's that woo-woo guy. He's over there talking about that stuff. I don't do that stuff. What is his name? Rob something. I can't remember his whole thing, but he did comic book videos. And he did all of the stuff that you're supposed to do for like the whole dealing with the copyright stuff, making sure certain images weren't there, this, that, and the third.
Comics Explained is the name of that channel.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that
guy right there.
Yeah, I love that guy.
He was like, yeah, so, and I remember like, this was like last year, I think it was, where he got like his first flag or something. And then it kind of just kept popping up a little bit more and more. And he was like, yeah, I think I'm going to have to leave YouTube. I was like, wait, how? Like, why? Like, you talk about comic books.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. If they're going after people based on subjects that, quote, show two different streams, right? You have the far right of it, of like, oh, that's controversial. That's like, oh, like out there. Those are those people that no one necessarily wants to rally behind in public, right? I can snipe those people all day. No one's going to say anything. Alex Jones is the perfect example. Then you go to the other side where it's like a subject that no one sees as anything. But let's see if this could happen.
Right.
Lo and behold, he was not the only comic book person that got hit where they was deleting videos, they was giving him strikes, and eventually it got to the point where him and a couple other people got like demonetized and they couldn't recover from it. And I'm not saying I have any definitive of anything, but here is one thing I note about when it comes to testing out systems. I'm not necessarily saying tech, but I'm saying systems.
Right.
When you try to see what is the public reaction on something, you go for the far extremes.
Right.
You go for the people that no one wants to be within public or that are considered the extreme end of something. And then you kind of like inch in on the things that people consider to be what's the word I'm looking for? Not novel.
Niche.
Not well niche, but more like a neutral kind of subject. And
Oh,
so when you kind of get your bearings on like how far left or how far right you can go to where the public is like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, oh, no, we're not worried about that. Or a small segment of the bigger segment. So case in point, in YouTube, if you Google, or sorry, if you do a search right now for just the word cryptos in the
mhm,
Google search, in the YouTube search engine, you get a little under 5 million results, right? I'm not
right,
talking about cryptocurrency. I'm not talking about blockchain. I'm just literally saying cryptos with an S.
right. Cryptos.
Of all of the content that is uploaded into YouTube on a daily basis, as well as the archives as it is for now, that is a small drop in the bucket for their content libraries, right?
Mm.
So that's one of those like, all right, is it just oh, the algos made a mistake? Well, somebody programmed the algos. You had to put the parameter search words in,
Right,
right?
right. Yeah.
How
Well,
did
and
you
that's
make
one reason why, to, for me, even if it were just a mistake, it's a mistake that somebody was thinking about, or something that somebody was thinking about, I should say. Because if it were just a blanket mistake, you'd see videos wiped out left and right. It wouldn't have been just one subgroup of people primarily. Now, and once again, I understand it wasn't just crypto people, but a lot of crypto people got hit. So
mm-hmm,
it's like, well, something in your algorithm targeted that word, or that keyword, or
mm-hmm,
either crypto, Bitcoin, or something that made it so that these people got rounded up in whatever this was.
right? And so here's the other part too that kind of interests me because I didn't think about the oh, people are just going out and flagging, which I'm surprised we didn't come up for a term for that yet. And it's not like this isn't doxing, but the intentional flagging of other of content creators' content in order to mess with their content library, right?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, it is a form of harassment. I mean, even though you're not speaking to the person, you are causing them unnecessary stress, unnecessary harm.
I
So
would
it
I
could
would I would call it content espionage.
corporate espionage. That's exactly what it
And
is.
that's just where I took it from.
It's
But
corporate espionage. Yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean, that's the
No,
whole thing right there.
yeah. Well, that's true because, and you have to. It's, I don't know where we're going with this because, like, I took a step back from making crypto content and started going back to cybersecurity content.
Hmm.
Um, and the reason why is because I think there's a larger conversation we're not having. We're not having a conversation of how do we protect this stuff.
Hmm.
You know, the it's great that you have a wallet that generates a new Bitcoin address every time you open it, but your phone has 19 different malwares on it because you keep going to Pornhub and other sites on the same web, on the
Okay.
same phone.
So interestingly enough, I think within that, I think like the whole privacy by design, I think that within the crypto space itself, um, it isn't, I feel like the KYC movement is being pushed harder than the privacy by design movement in the crypto space
Yeah, yeah,
because that argument of well this is about security, well this is about the getting the stopping the terrorist, and those talking points of security and safety um have I would argue a louder voice because of a bigger budget. Certain phrase that they use for if there's like turmoil going on in a country. So they went
Un-
from like Iran to Hong Kong, Venezuela, and someplace else. And it was
okay.
like, okay, we talk about how cryptos is great for blah blah blah, but here are these, three environments where things are kind of in an upheaval, and it's not as easy as quote you know, certain people make it sound. It
Yeah,
doesn't
I
function as
read that one.
fluid.
Yeah, yeah. No, I read that one. Yeah.
Right. So as soon as you said that, I was like, oh yeah, I mean,
Well, and now here's the thing, and I talked to this to a couple of other people, and that's a great point, because crypto is only as good as the internet that it's running on.
right.
So we can talk about Bitcoin does this and Bitcoin does that, but if this person doesn't have a phone that supports the wallet, Bitcoin doesn't do anything for him.
It, more so if you don't have an infrastructure that can deal with either being a sub or like what the main internet thing is, or you have something else. So like if you have like the satellite network that's it streams down to a couple of different places, but I always hear about it in Africa. I never hear about it being streamed down to like, you know, Singapore or like Estonia or any place like that. I always hear it in reference to some, I forgot the country in Africa, but
Is it the one that
that's the
Akon's working with?
no, this is outside of Akon.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, like okay. So it's funny how here we are 10 years later. For me, this is like six, six, eight, 6, 7 or so years later. And oh, man, like it's interesting. The longer you stay in this space, and then you see the growth, the up and downs, the progression, the the blowback of the centralized state, whether it be government or company. Um, it's interesting to see how like we've made it to certain levels, and then at the same time we've not necessarily pushed as far as we thought we would.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of get where I'm going. So like
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
if you look at it from the tech end, we've made some pretty damn good innovations, bro. Like I remember, you know, before in-app like atomic swaps, and like before you were able to have the exchange connected to the wallet that you have on the back end, and then where now you have like password recovery, and you weren't doing this like 3 years ago, bro. And I'm just talking three.
Well, no, 3 years ago, if you lost your password, that was just it. You're done.
Right. So like, you know, and we get to this part now where you can do things where you can be in a quote hostile environment, whether you don't have complete access to the internet network, but you can still do things to work around those systems.
Mm-hmm.
You wasn't doing this like 2 years ago.
It's just, I think that when the people from the outside see all the stuff we're doing, they're like, they have no idea what we're talking about. You know, it's like, well, what's
Okay.
lightning? What's this? What's that? You know?
So here's a funny thing, and it goes to the point that you made before about how we got lost in the conversation of monetary value.
Mm-hmm.
In my early days, I used to think that using price point as the vector for mass adoption was one of the smartest things that you could do as a way of marketing, because it will carry itself once you put it out into the public space.
Right.
Oh, there's this thing that can make money. Oh, I don't have to quote work for it. Oh, all I got to do is this. Oh, it's anonymous.
Right.
Without understanding any of the technicals, you literally dumbed it down, which is the whole point of marketing. You dumbed it down to an ABC level thing. For the people who understood the techie tech part of it, they was just sitting back like, well, I mean, I could try to explain it to you, but you know, I don't want to scare you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, and the irony of it was, for as techie as it was, look at the number of people who got in the earlier part of it, made a monetary gain, learned X amount of the tech part behind it. Because what do we say? You come for the money, but stay for the tech.
For the tech, right?
Right. And then it's just like, okay, I get this now. I understand more of what's going on. And then you kind of lose that the money part. But like I said, the initial honey, the initial golden apple was, let's talk about price point, because everyone understands money.
Right.
No matter what language,
Yeah.
everyone understands money.
But my problem with that, and I agree with you 100%, but my problem with that is then we can't be surprised when the IRS and the SEC starts poking their nose around. Because
Right.
that's
Like
what they do.
so like I said, this was me in the early days, bro. I'm talking like 2012, 2011. Okay. This is me in the early days on how I'm thinking about stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
And then get into understanding, okay, the gate guards have things set up a certain way. The development as far as how the what is it, no coiners and the non-techies will adapt to it and will bring it into their fold, or how it will get to a point where, you know, we talk about things like email and how packet transference, you don't know the technical side of that. You just know you finger jammed and then you said send and it was like bloop, Barbara got it.
Yeah.
And I got my letter back saying, like my report back saying, all right, she opened it and read it.
Right.
You don't know anything in between you pressing send and getting that thing back.
Right.
When it comes to this crypto thing, or even the blockchain as the bigger tech part of it, in some ways I feel like we let the narrative run ahead of us, because there was so, like, I don't know what year you got in, but it was like we went from where there was a Sahara desert of information out there. It was nothing. And then all of a sudden, it just turned into the damn Congo of like info everywhere, bro. If you do a Googly search right now, you will get a short of 1 trillion search results on the word crypto alone. I did this 5 days ago, so I know that my number is relatively right. We went from relatively nothing to all of a sudden like an overflowing influx. And then what you have is how people are, is people want the most condensed, easiest understood version of it. They want that neat little package of it, which comes back to marketing, right? How are you telling the story? And at the same time, though, you still have, I'm gonna call it, other influencers and forces working to push it in a certain way, where in comes the KYC movement. What is that, like 2-3 years ago?
Not two.
Now, like the KYC movement is like a standard in the space when you talk about the financial side of it. That was like an unheard of thing 4 years ago. Now, if you talk to somebody about it, like, so is there a KYC process? That'll be like the second or third question someone asks you if you talk about an exchange, a wallet, or some kind of token or crypto. Is there a KYC process? Like, what do you know about KYC process? Like, when did that become a part of the standard questions?
Who told you about that?
Right. And it's like it's not organic to the space. Like, but like I said, in my opinion, I think that that movement has a deeper pocket to make them have a louder voice. And in part because the exchanges are jumping on board. Why? Because you're a business and you want to make money. And how do you operate in a market where you can't get in because the regulator said, no, you got to do this thing first to then come play in this sandbox?
Right. Well, but then that flies in the face of what we're trying to do. I mean, if you're into crypto and you're trying to use crypto as intended, you want to stay clear away from that stuff as much as possible. You know, you don't want to be messing with exchanges and all these other things that would require KYC. The whole point is to keep this between you and me, not all these people over here.
But then that goes to that, and that's why I call some people and some companies bag chasers, because all they're doing is just running after the money. So it's not about the principles, it's not about the ethics, it's not about the morals, it's not about the core culture that birthed this thing, which is like the cypherpunk movement, which is, you know, people who are looking at privacy by design, which is the whole open source nature. That's not what those people who are able to make the business part flourish, to quote, where it's mass adoption. That's not necessarily their motivation or agenda. It's like, oh wait, I can make 3 billion in like revenue volume. Like, I didn't know that BitMEX I did my Thursday Blackness vlog the other day. BitMEX did like $1 trillion in volume or something like that for either this year or last year.
Right.
And I'm just like, wow, like for the money people, that they just salivating like, yes. Like, have you ever noticed this, bro? Like about earlier this year, one of the things that I really started getting annoyed about in the crypto space, and I noticed it in 2017, but heavy in 2018, was when there was a lot of articles that were coming out about how, you know, this platform raised X amount of millions, this person raised blah 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 millions, this group came together and did that, and everything which built into that narrative of the price talk.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting excited about people raising money,
Right.
but how much are y'all actually helping people?
Well, and I mean the it goes back to what happened on YouTube. And what happened on YouTube, the people who are freaking out, and I've noticed this, and it wasn't everybody, so if you're watching this, don't take it personally. But the people who were primarily freaking out were the people who weren't putting their stuff on decentralized platforms. They had it on YouTube, and that's the only place they had it. So once it started going down, they started freaking out because they didn't have their alternative. That's why I was telling people, check out places like Library, check out places like, you know, even Steam It or whatever, you know. But even if you don't go to a decentralized platform, don't leave everything in one spot.
Okay, here's my question for people. Why did you not have a backup copy of your content? I'm just saying, like, why? But like, that blows my mind, sir. Where, well,
I mean, to that point, that's an excellent point. Like, I maintain my own server, and when I upload a video like this one, I put a copy on YouTube. I put a copy on. I do an audio file on my podcast platform, and then I store it on my server. Right. So if YouTube decides tomorrow we can't have this channel anymore, I still got everything cataloged the same way that I did the day I filmed it. That way I can upload it somewhere else and go about my day.
There you go. Redundancy.
Right. And I mean, it's like
one of the most. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, it frustrates me sometimes, the people who this is tech, whether or not you want to go about the money or price movements, it's still technology you're dealing with. So you have to think about that. You have to embrace larger technology than just Bitcoin.
Bro, you hitting the nail on the head right now, because like that's how I've had to come to that realization on the blockchain stuff, the whole thing of dealing with data storage, the whole thing of dealing with like, what are my redundancies? How am I holding on to my original stuff? And the other part too that's interesting about like how certain things are being said, you have the people who were heavily dependent on the monetization of cryptos, of their content on YouTube. And then you had the people who were looking or working to build their channels, build their base going through YouTube. And this is like, wait, I just started. I only been here for like 6 months. Y'all gonna start cutting out the crypto content? I didn't build my base yet. How am I supposed to monetize this? Well, if you got good content, just figure out another streaming platform and you're good to go.
Well, or you can put it on your own website.
That too. But you know, Ivan on Tech, I think, made the best point for everybody that I've paid attention to. The issue with YouTube isn't that there's no other platform to go to do the distribution or the storage. The issue is discovery. And YouTube has discovery on lock because it's with Googly. So once you search in Googly, you order. For those of you who are not understanding why I keep saying googly, I am talking about Google, but I call it googly. So if you go through the search engine on googly, you automatically get what's going on in YouTube. That is an automatic funnel right there.
Yeah.
Googly has pretty much put themselves in everything as far as like, oh, well, Google is a verb now. Like, hey, Google that.
Yeah, Google that. Yeah, Google that.
So that's the thing right there. They have the discovery aspect of it. How I look at it, and I was saying this to CB the other day, I'm like, if they continue down this path of doing what they're doing with the algos, of what I think is a very much bigger conversation of censoring content and information. This is not just a crypto space thing. This is definitely bigger than that.
Right.
Is that the competition, the competitors, the DLives, the BitTubes, the Steemit, the Vimo, whatever, 3 to 5 years, like they will definitely get sizable part of the market from YouTube because of things like this now.
Well, you also have the people who are going to be affected because of COPA, and the people, you know,
that's a whole nother round unto itself.
Now, my thing though, and I in the back of my mind, what I first thought when this happened is Google's working on their own crypto. And the reason why I said that was because when people started getting banned from Facebook, lo and behold, here comes Libra. And that's what I thought. And you would have, I still think Google's going to try it. I still think they're going to come out with their own crypto one of these days. There's going to be the G coin or something like that, you know. And that's why I'm telling people they need to diversify where they store their stuff, because the next time this happens, and it was a test, it was a test.
Yeah.
The next time this happens, they're not going to put it back, and people are going to be.
They put back everybody's content.
They're supposedly people's videos are starting to show back up, like the people who got their videos taken down. Different people on Twitter, I have the feed going right here. Different people have been saying that their videos are coming back. But I honestly believe it was a test to see how many videos they could take down at once.
Before people started, you see it, but you see what I'm saying though, like that whole like, oh, let's can we do this? Let's see how much we can do before the noise gets to a certain level.
Right. And when there's one or two people complaining on Twitter, nobody cares. But when CoinDesk picks it up, when CZ starts talking about it, and it becomes a thing, then all of a sudden, oh, we'll fix it. Really? Yeah. Like, so I don't buy that it was a mistake at all. I don't buy that.
Oh, I don't buy that one bit that it was a mistake, because it had to be the algos had to play a part in it, and simply because there were some people who did the private thing with their videos. They made them private. So if you can't search it, if you can't see it in the public search side, how are you finding this video then? How are you deleting this video? How am I getting flagged for something that's not publicly searchable?
Exactly. That's my point.
It had to be an algo.
It had to be. You had to set something up to hunt for that kind of video. I mean, come on, really? We might not all be technical savvy, but we're not stupid.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
We're not all technically savvy, but we're not stupid. Some things are just too convenient. Just too.
All right, let me throw this one out for you. Like once I started hearing about how like the numbers didn't matter, like if you had like 100,000 followers or like 20 followers, like 10K followers or whatever. Here's something that I thought about. Like this is let's call it out there on the woo-woo side. I'm gonna take a Cliff High phrase. So I'm gonna throw this out as a loose theory.
Okay.
And this goes into the thing of social engineering. So, we know that within the media and within social media, there's been this new push on what is like, quote, fake news, as far
Hmm.
as the platforms themselves saying, we will not tolerate fake news. We will not tolerate dangerous content.
Right.
And so algos went through and inventoried, cached people's content.
Mm.
You get your hashtags and stuff, all your word stuff, the visuals of it, the audios, the audio. You know, I'm not even gonna run down that rabbit hole because that's a whole different conversation on the tech side on how things are gonna go. But
Right.
the point being is that I, in my mind, was like, would this be a test on if you can take down X amount of content, have people get riled up to a certain level, but not to a level where it disrupts the
Mhm.
regular functioning of the platform, the regular functioning of viewers still coming to your platform to watch whatever they're watching, right? Remember, now, the idea here being is that if you target, without saying it, certain types of content, certain people, and their particular content, and you then what's the word I'm looking for? Push them down within the search. But now you're doing more than pushing them down within the search. You're eliminating their thing altogether to then later on come in and have other content creators or content that gets pushed up that goes more towards what your narrative of a story is.
To
Because
fill the gap.
everything within the huh?
To fill the gap.
To fill the gap, right? So now it goes into the whole thing of here's the trusted content, here's the good content, here's the people who are valid content creators.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Those
Now
are the ones you can find.
we're too much here, buddy. I'm gonna wrap it up. We're gonna wrap it up.
I
But
got you.
but I want to get your opinion on this because to what you're saying, because we've saw the same thing happening to the news media where independent voices on YouTube are being demonetized,
Mm-hmm.
being pushed down in the ranks so that the big companies, the CNNs, the MSNBCs, Fox News, etc., could take the lead. Even the redesign of YouTube now caters to those people as opposed, because like you actually don't see the people you subscribe to first anymore.
Yep.
You see
Yep.
whatever YouTube recommends, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to drop down to
To
go
get
to
past the BS. Mm-hmm.
right to see the people you actually subscribe to. So they're already doing it. I just think this was their way of saying, in the day we decide to cut these people off, can we do a mass cutoff and just get them out all at the same time?
And I'm gonna say yes. Alex Jones was the first watershed moment for us to see it happen on multiple platforms. YouTube's thing right now, and they've been doing it in iterations. Like I said before, like this isn't just a us in the crypto blocks chain thing. This has been a bigger conversation and a bigger strategy going on that we it it's like the ant to the human,
Yeah.
right? Because we're on, and when I say the human I'm labeling as the infrastructure behind that makes the internet,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I,
So
I can
as
and those things.
right, so in that we're looking at it from this little space right here because this is all we can see, but it looks so huge we can't even get in full all of how all these pieces and parts are moving together to
Mm-hmm.
then do things where like I can't do paid ads on IG, but then they try to hit me with the, oh well, if you pay blah blah blah, then we'll move your, oh, so you're artificially suppressing my content and impression reach. On principle alone, I'm not going to pay for that. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
but like it's it's one of these things that I think that in hindsight, so give it like another 6 months, give it like another year, like 2021, 2022, when X amount of the more technical folks who are in the cat and mouse game of bringing certain technical things to the light that have been done by the corporate sides through technology, we're going to come back to this moment and be like, oh yeah, you remember when blah, blah, blah happened at the end of 2019?
Yeah.
So here's what that was about.
The purge of 2019 is going to be, this is going to come back up eventually.
Yes.
You know, and whether we're ready, and like I put on Twitter, we need to be prepared. You know, they're going to try it again. And then when we start complaining on Twitter, no one's going to care. You know, because they're just not. So we need to be prepared. We need to create backups. So if for the people watching this, if your content was taken down this last week, and it's back up, you need to download that and put it on your own server. At the very least, save it on your desktop.
That's why they make hard drives, like portable hard drives.
Exactly. You got to cut it off right there, buddy. So I want to have you back on soon so we can talk again. So I'll we'll talk on Twitter and we'll see how this all develops.